Gio Reyna, you're somewhat ironically the coach that's given him the most playing time in the last 6 months or so. We know about the struggles getting on the field at Dortmund. He goes to Forest. It's early, but things not off to a great start there. We saw Christian Pulisic extricate himself from a bad situation at Chelsea. He's now thriving at AC Milan. How concerned are you about Gio? How important is it for him to find the right home this summer?
I think it's important to realize that Gio's still a young player, and he's still finding himself. He's still finding exactly who he is as a player. And every player on our team has gone through times when they're not thriving or it's not going the best way for them. And so for Gio, it's no different. We're not panicking. We know he has a ton of talent. We know that he can be a game changer. And we're looking forward to the day when he's in the team each and every week and really starting to thrive and grow, because we know how much quality he has and what a good player he is.
You mentioned Gio's talent. And while we can be specific about Gio, I think you can broaden it out, because you've had the pleasure and the opportunity to work with a lot of very talented players. There were some that argue that this is the most talented generation, and maybe the depth of talent is unlike anything that we have seen in the past. But is talent enough for some of these players? And I guess I'm asking you as a coach to talk to some of those young players out there where there's a lot of talented players. But talent, whether it's Gio or anybody else, that only gets you so far. And can you coach the rest of it, or is it just something that's innate?
You can definitely coach the rest of it. I think with a growth mindset, people change and people can improve. And I don't think it's just about talent. I think you need the whole package if you want to be at a top level. And this is what we're talking about. I mean, there is a big difference between, being at a good level and the absolute top. And the absolute top, you need the whole package. And I'm talking about a handful of clubs across the globe, top 5 leagues, Champions League teams. Like, that's a really high level. And you need everything. I mean, soccer's so competitive. They're playing soccer everywhere in the world, right? So talent isn't just going to separate you from everyone else.
So what are those other things?
You need everything. It's a mentality. I think it's a growth mindset. It's competitiveness. It's willingness, or the ability to take in instruction, to learn. There's the physical attributes that you need. I mean, it's literally a whole package that you need. And what we've seen is our most successful guys have a lot of those attributes.
We interviewed your former teammate Brad Friedel recently, and he expressed some concern about American goalkeepers going to places where they're not playing regularly. We all want Americans to test themselves in Europe, but are you worried at all that in recent years, American goalkeepers have found it tough to find a place in Europe where they can start regularly?
Yeah, I mean, that's always a concern, right? Ideally, we want our players, all of our players, playing week in and week out, 90 minutes, being a big part of their team and contributing each and every week. That's not always the case. And when I talked about, ups and downs with our player pool, and we mentioned Gio having ups and downs, and the entire player pool one time in their careers having these ups and downs, it's no different for our goalkeepers. And we're confident that they have the right mentality to get themselves out of it. You see Ethan moved from Forest to Cardiff, and now he's playing every week. And we're confident that Matt and whoever our other goalies are going to solve their situations and come out on the top end of it. And that's part of, that's part of being at such a high level, is that it's really competitive.
You talked about players and that growth process and that maturity isn't always linear, and it can go up and down and back and forth. The same can be said about coaches. Yep. I think I've actually asked you this before when we've talked about how I'm interested in how you have changed as a coach, and specifically in things that you do now that you wouldn't have done, or things that you don't do now that you maybe did when you first started with this national team and with this group, as you have been given these multiple cycles now with this group growing up.
I think the beauty of how we work is, we have this cycle. It's plan, perform, reflect, refine, and that never stops. So every camp, we're focused on getting better. And we look at what we did in this camp. We say, okay, was it good enough? If it wasn't good enough, what can we do better? We'll integrate feedback-based adjustments into the next camp. So it's this continual process of trying to improve. I think that if you look at yourself 2 years ago and think you were smart, it means you haven't learned anything in the last 2 years. So it's no different for us. We're always improving. We're always getting better, whether that's management, whether that's tactics, whether that's training sessions, whether that's game analysis, and everything. We're always trying to improve.
What have you learned then?
What haven't I learned? No, I mean, it's a really interesting question because, for example, Germany, we talk really specifics about Germany, right? So that would be an example of where, our defensive structure against their 3-2 build-up, if we want to press, one player wants to press, the rest of the players want to cover passing options, but we're leaving another center back open that they can pass to, then the next player will go out and press, the rest will cover. I think against highly technical players, it's a difficult way to press because they'll just keep moving you around and you'll get frustrated. I think if you really want to say we're going to high press them, you have to go 1-versus-1 in that zone. You have to do it or else it's going to be really challenging for your team. So that would be an example.
You like that clip? Well, my State of the Union podcast drops twice a week right here on my very own YouTube page. The only way to stay up to date is to hit that subscribe button down below. Size the day, and see you soon.